Welcome to another episode of Growth Hacker TV. I'm Bronson Taylor, and today I have Justin Winter with us. Justin, thanks for coming on the program.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. It'll be unique because you're in a category that a lot of other startups that watch this are not in. So we'll get to learn some new kinds of tricks and things. But you are the founder of Diamond Candles. So tell us, what is Diamond Candles?
Diamond Candles. We are a home fragrance company. We are online only. So Diamond Candles specifically, as kind of the name alludes to, we actually make candles that have a real ring inside of each earth-friendly, all-natural soy candle. So each ring, and talking like a ring you wear, is going to be worth at least $10. So comparable to something that a female might find at just a department store or something like that. That it's still good enough that they would wear it out, to match an outfit, that type of thing. But there's also the chance that it might someone might find a ring worth $100, $1,000, or up to $5,000.
Wow!
So kind of a Cracker Jack box kind of concept.
Yeah.
So kind of spicing it up, making things a little bit more fun, high level of anticipation.
Yeah.
So that's us in a nutshell.
So is this kind of like lottery tickets for women who don't know they have a gambling problem? Is that what this is?
No. So, they love it. What we find is that, we have about, the average household spends about $12, $15 on home fragrance products every month.
Really?
So this is definitely a consumable up there with laundry detergent and groceries. So it's something that
category you want to be in. So.
Right, yeah. So there's a practical utility to, a nice, fragrance in your room or getting rid of a bad smell. But then it's also something that predominantly females just really, really enjoy. So we're kind of in this great space. People are already buying it, but we figured out a way to make it more fun. And hopefully we would make things even a little bit better quality than what people are used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't know what you guys have kind of publicly released, but what kind of growth have you experienced there? Any numbers you can tell me, well, whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Right. Yeah, no, so it's been really exciting. So we've been around for just a little over 2 years technically from when we really just first started testing the waters. Back would have been Valentine's Day 2011 is when we kind of opened up shop and decided to test this out there and see how things looked. So what we did in our first 12 months, and still very much figuring things out, we ended up clearing $1 million in revenue for our first 12 months. So way above what certainly we would have expected. And then now with where we're at about a $20 million run rate pace right now. So it's been pretty crazy, and keeping up with a physical product and keeping it in demand when we actually manufacture it provides some problems that most tech guys aren't having. But it's been a lot of fun.
Well, let me ask you about some of those problems. In your opinion, is it harder to grow a physical product company than it is to grow kind of an online only company? What are some of the difficulties there?
Yeah, no, it's different, I guess. Not necessarily harder or easier. Certainly there are some additional complexies with cash flow and inventory and things like that to kind of scale things, particularly if you don't have any outside money. And so, and we haven't taken any outside money, so it was very much, we sold a dozen candles day one, the profit from that, we need the candles for day two, just kind of rolling it over to where we are now. So definitely a lot with, and since we're manufacturing things ourselves, we found that, roughly about every quarter, we had to double production completely. So starting from a very, very, very small footprint, about 2,000 square feet, maybe a little less, I think, was where we were at, and now we're at a place about 10 times the size. So kind of some of those bumps in the road, exciting challenges to have, certainly, but definitely different, and some different skill sets with things than just the online only part of it.
Yeah, that's great. So kind of looking back over the last couple of years, what are some of the key things you've learned about growing an e-commerce company that maybe you didn't know on day one?
Yeah, there was a lot we didn't know day one, definitely. So it's been very iterative with us figuring things out. One of the exciting things, and I think you can see this in a lot of kind of just the e-commerce market as a whole right now, there's kind of what maybe I might kind of put into two different categories. There's kind of the old guard, like internet retailer 500, put a UPC code on a website and sell it type stuff. Amazon all the way down to maybe a soap.com. They're selling soap, except it's just branded for soap. Is it that much really different than Amazon? They might argue with me on that, but I would say it's probably not very dissimilar. So, but then there's kind of the new guard here, which is the very tech-influenced e-commerce, right, where we see companies like, Bonobos to a degree, or even a Warby Parker, which is still a little bit more of a pure play kind of internet retailer, all the way to like a fab.com, right, or a Sneak Peek or something like that. So, for us, in terms of our learnings, we have some great people running the race with us in different markets that we're able to kind of rub shoulders with. But it's definitely a huge, wide open field in many ways. There's so much opportunity with different products, kind of whether it's kind of more in the long tail of physical goods, or it's, I'd say actually a good example, a buddy of mine sells hair extensions online and just online. And I guess I can't, probably tell his numbers without asking, but, they do a lot of stuff on YouTube and, not much else. And they're doing really, really well. Like, something, they're definitely kind of mid-market size, over $1 million a year, very, very easily, type thing. So it's interesting to see all these different brands out there and how they're trying to be unique, have a story, offer a better experience that's targeted for their product line instead of just putting a barcode on something.
Yeah. Is that really the main difference in the new guard and the old guard, is crafting that experience, crafting something unique for that vertical, or is there something else that really differentiates them even more?
Right. I think with some brands that are vertically integrated like us, there are some kind of supply chain operational kind of manufacturing efficiencies that can be had. And Warby Parker is kind of a typical example here that they, are they doing something super revolutionary with technology? Not necessarily. It's not like, maybe like a fab, which is maybe a little bit more like tech heavy with things. But they've been able to change an industry from a cost structure standpoint and efficiencies there. And we're able to piggyback on that similar concept because we don't have physical brick and mortar stores, which for the home fragrance industry, Yankee Candles as an example being the largest at about $1 billion in revenue a year. They have this huge network of physical brick and mortar retailers, both branded for them as well as third party kind of retailers. So because we don't have all of that, we have extra margin to be able to do things with. So the question is, well, what do we do it with? What do we do with it that's going to make a difference and help break through things? So that's how we can afford to do the rings as an example. So there's definitely, I think, in the ones that are really going to be around, it's that unique story, and then figuring out how can we use technology to really enhance kind of the product experience that's better, than what other people have. So I think it's kind of multiple things to stand on. How can we do things differently here, operation, supply chain wise, technology, right? Social, customer service. Then you have lots of legs to stand on at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's great advice. Now, you guys have done some really interesting things to gain users, things that I'm pretty sure no other candle company has ever done. For instance, you guys achieved 250,000 likes on your Facebook fan page organically. I looked yesterday. I think it was over 250,000 now. Okay, tell us, how did you achieve that organically?
There you go. Growth hacking, right?
There you go. That's it.
That's all I tell you. Yeah. No. So for us, what I think is unique for us, very early on, we figured out, we knew this was going to be a unique, fun experience for people, but kind of go to market, like what does that look like? We figured out very early on, and we almost literally launched on Facebook. So Facebook has been part of our DNA from day one. In the early days, I was literally on Facebook like 5 or 6 hours a day, every day for like months.
Wow.
Particularly when we didn't have a dedicated social media person. So a lot of that was figuring out product, figuring out how can we get people to tell more people, right? And this is all we have. We don't have a marketing budget, right? It's me and who can afford to feed me, right? And then my other two co-founders, David and Brenda as well, who are running lots of things as well. So for us, we figured out early on that the value is in in many ways, the experience initially. So the excitement and the anticipation. All you have to do, just go to YouTube and search diamond candles and pull up one of these videos, and you'll understand a little bit about what I mean.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I did that last night, and I was like, there's a whole like subculture, hidden world of like unboxing these candles that I knew nothing about. But anyway, back to Facebook. Tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah, exactly. So that excitement in that moment, what is the most low friction way to capture that moment in an impactful way? It's photos. So with that, we figured, hey, when people were sort of taking, these, photos with their phones of, hey, this is the ring I got, this is my candle type thing. They were able to easily tell that story. It was something that they enjoyed, and they're like showing off. Oh, I got $100 ring, or hey, do you like this one? That type of thing. So very early on, we figured, hey, if we can get more people doing that, spreading that more, like we'll be good, right? That was kind of the hack, right? So for us, we did a lot with incentivizing people, both with the culture, even on the label, actually. We have a call to action to take a photo and share the experience on the physical product we actually have.
Yeah.
So we kind of created this culture where, because the product's so different, well, I've never heard of diamond candles. What is it? Oh, there's a ring and a candle. What you do is you share this experience with others via photos. Like that is part of the thing. Like you don't not do that. This is different, so we do things differently. Gotcha. So creating that culture of expectation, and certainly we would run, test out different incentive schemes, so to speak, with contests and things like that for, hey, upload photos and the first 20 people who do it, we're going to give you this, that type of thing. And we found people genuinely enjoyed coming back and seeing the pictures of the rings of other people. So it created an environment that, I think for a lot of, the problem that a lot of people have is, who cares about the Facebook page? Like what value is there for me to where I'm going to think about it tomorrow and want to come back to your page that's I can't find anywhere else. So we're able to create that value. And the medium just so happened to be Facebook. And certainly our target market is hugely on Facebook. Yeah. And then, with that, that in many ways was really it. So other than that, and working to find influencers who had some number of, fans and followers on Facebook, or they were, the mom blogger type, or, fashion blogger or something like that, getting them a free product, or even if it wasn't free, and then saying, hey, don't send people to our website, send them to our Facebook page, because that third party, wow, look at all these photos people are getting, was kind of the pre-sale page in many ways.
Is your social proof.
Yeah. So kind of funneling people through that social proof channel before the website, I think is really what did it for us. We were able to create the value, and then strategically we sent everybody there before they came to the site. And because it was compelling enough, we didn't worry that a significant portion of people were going to fall off kind of on our conversion funnel to actually get to the site.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because when I first went to the site, it was probably a week or two ago, and I had one impression of the company. And then last night, I look at a YouTube video and then go back to the site, and I feel completely differently about what you guys are actually doing, because I went through the social channel first. So I think that's a great kind of tidbit of information to prime the pump, let them see something on another platform possibly, because it's counterintuitive. We think, no, get them to the site. Obviously, that's where the sale happens, when really there may be some kind of pre-marketing that needs to happen there. Let me ask you about the incentives. You said you played around with different incentives, the first one to do this, the first 20 to do that. Did you guys learn anything about those contests and incentive programs? Maybe things that you tried that just you thought were going to be awesome that bombed, things that you didn't know would work well and they did awesome? Because we're always trying to figure out contests and schemes to do things on different platforms,
Right. True. Probably in two different areas. We had a post-purchase refer a friend program that made it very easy for people to be able to, one click to Facebook and they're sharing things. Curebit.com, growth hacker toolkit, put it in there, curebit.com. Yeah. They're a great platform, great guys. And what we're able to do is run multivariate tests on lots of different things, but predominantly of which particularly early on was the incentive level. So we would run tests on, hey, so after people make a purchase, pop up, hey, share this with your friends, and if someone makes a purchase, we'll give you a $4 credit, or like $4 diamond candles cash, or $5, right, or $6, right, and we'd run that and say, hey, $5 has a nice ring to it, people respond better. And then it was actually offering a coupon code to the people they're sharing with. And then we could test those incentive levels as well. So it was a double-sided incentive program. And then, beyond that, we're able to test everything all the way down to the thumbnails on the Facebook share posts, to the pre-selected text, the thumbnails, the headers, everything like that. So to really, we did a lot in working very closely with Curebit to optimize that, particularly early on. And that's actually been very huge for us, kind of the social referral component, just because the product is so unique and our market is very reticent to share, this story with other people. So, really looking there and kind of testing those things was huge for us. And that was really the primary share mechanism we had early on, and is still, predominant today in many ways. But then secondarily, in incentivizing people for different things, we would run stuff where we would do, we would use different social contest promotion platforms where, hey, it's a photo contest or it's a video contest, things like that. We would run video contests and figure out, how, obviously the additional work required for something like that out of our fan base, what's the participation rate, what's the value in those, in that user-generated content once we have it, versus, hey, let's try photos, and obviously we're going to have a higher participation rate, of that total, kind of pie, testing those things. So, we, at the end of the day, we try to, and we do a lot, just kind of have a mix, right? Because you got to kind of keep things different for people anyway. So we'd have different themes, but it would kind of go, if you did maybe kind of like a pyramid almost, like, the bottom, like a text, a giveaway, enter an email is going to be the lowest barrier to entry, highest level of participation. As you kind of move your way up, right, you're asking for more work, but the potential payoff is significantly larger. So we would kind of vary up and down with things, and certainly early on, and even now, growing those numbers with giveaway, low barrier to entry tools really allowed us to rapidly grow up that volume, and obviously relatively short period of time with no direct paid acquisition budget for things.
Yeah, and you mentioned Curebit. Tell us real quick, what is Curebit for our audience, in case it might be a tool they need to use?
Yeah. So Curebit is a social referral platform. So they have a free account which people can get in and use. So not just kind of post-purchase for e-commerce, but also other kind of different actions, people being able to, one click and share type thing, different social networks. They have a very extensive multivariate A/B testing platform, super marketer friendly, to be able to, just, drop the code in, get the install all going, and then run all types of tests you can imagine there. And then they also do have kind of an enterprise level services account where if someone doesn't have the time to focus full time, they can come on and work more on an incentive basis. So it's kind of like a part-time marketing team that's always working every week to run split tests for you and continually optimize those channels.
Perfect. Thought it'd be a good tool for people to know about, in case they need to plug something like that in. Now, we talked about this already a few times, but it really does seem like, people just go crazy when they're opening up their candle and they burn it down to the point that they can get the ring out. It's just like, it's such a good experience. It really delights them. Do you think that that's something other startups should consider, is really finding kind of their ring moment? Is there something they can put into the product that's just awesome, different, surprising, fun? Or is this just something you've been able to do but probably is not replicatable? Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Right. Yeah, no. I think that's a great line of thought because and there's some people I've seen where you can see where they're trying something, but either for maybe even you personally, you're like, that doesn't really matter to me, So I think for us, the excitement and the fun for some demographics and some verticals, that might not matter at all. Like that's not really going to move the needle. Okay. But for us, when we looked at candles and kind of the context around candles, and being not being necessarily a huge candle guy leading up to this myself, but my wife hugely loving candles, right? Brenda, my partner is hugely loving candles. Understanding that this is an enjoyable, fun experience. So how can we amp that part up, right? And then certainly you can kind of sit and conjecture about, is that really going to move the needle for people? Or, what if the, I don't know, what if it's, hey, we make candles and we are, candle name XYZ. And if you buy a candle, we give a candle to, someone in need who needs a candle, right?
His name is Tom. No.
Right. So, or buy one, give one type thing. But let's say that's the only value prop, right? Mm-hmm. Is that something where for the average person in that market, that's going to be enough of a factor that converts them to be, to make a transaction compared to another product, right? Or Warby Parker is a great example. Warby Parker is not only buy one, give one. If that's all they were, they would not be anywhere near where they are. Mm-hmm. There's other very distinctive kind of value propositions that they need to be able to do in their market, which clearly resonates, with that market. So I think in many ways it's just more fun, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's handbags or like toilet paper, like whatever. I don't know. How could we make T-shirts, handbags? Like maybe there's something where it's like, hey, you set it up pricing wise, and with your margins, you're able to say, hey, we buy one, and then maybe as a surprise, like email someone and say, hey, we're going to send you a free one. Like, and that's kind of like your thing, right? You build that into your cost structure, and then once you give someone a free product, right, make it really easy for them to share that. And people are just so blown away by that. Mm-hmm. Like, 80% of everyone is sharing that and then giving that to someone in need, or a friend or like whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So, some kind of creative hook that resonates with the market in a way that fits well is difficult, but it's kind of that mix between understanding your market, kind of consumer psychology, understanding what excites people and what works for people, mm-hmm. And in testing, at the end of the day, just kind of figuring out, talking to people and then minimum viable product, getting something out there. So.
Yeah, it seems like it goes back to that new guard, old guard with e-commerce, because the old guard doesn't think like this at all. But the new guard, for instance, people order off Zappos, and then all of a sudden they get next day delivery unexpectedly. Like that's the new guard kind of given their ring experience, I think about Fab, we mentioned them a few times already. We ordered something off Fab, last month, and they sent us a free poster in there. And I mean, it's like, what do I need a free poster for? And yet I'm excited about it, It's like, and I'm glad I have it. And my wife thinks it's cool too, And so it's just those little things, it seems like what the new guard is doing, where they're not trying to have these, margins that's all profit. They're willing to reinvest in the experience with those margins, which I think is a big deal, that really can be a leg up on the competitors. Yeah,
and I think there's so traditionally the e-commerce game is really a zero-sum game because it's, let's just say it's handbags as an example, right? Let's say there's 5 retailers selling handbags online. Mm-hmm. How are they getting customers? PPC, traditional SEM, they're all bidding against each other. Mm-hmm. So really the entire game comes down to conversion rate, right? And some of those important metrics, if we can convert people slightly better than everyone else, right? And our average order is slightly higher, our lifetime customer value is slightly higher, mm-hmm. we can afford to pay slightly more from this acquisition channel, right? And then it's just that all day long. It's just that game, right? So instead of saying, because we've run some very minimal tests, but nothing that's contributing huge to the bottom line at all. But we don't do any paid acquisition right now. I mean, I think it's something that we're looking at doing in the future, and we should leave it on the table for no reason. But because we've been able to figure out something without playing that game, right? We've been able to create something different and obviously something that's meaningful. So you can't win the game, like don't play the game, like make a new game, right? We made it different. We didn't play it by the old guard. So
it's great. We had Gagan Biani, the co-founder of Udemy, come on, and he talked about pay-per-click as being a business model competition. He said whoever has the best business model wins. Just like what you said, there's 5 of them. They're all just trying to figure out how to eke out the best margins to pay the most per click. So it's like you can play the business model game if you want to, but you have to have the best margins, the best business model, whatever. Or you can play the experience game, which is ignore that and just bring them in some other route that makes them have a more connection to your brand anyway. So
Right. Yeah, and like a good practical example, we ran some tests on mobile pay-per-click, and now they've made some changes with kind of combining that with desktop. But if you look at, top 10, top 20 results, or anyone who's paying for pay-per-click ads right now, mm-hmm. And you look at their sites, run them to check if they're mobile, there's like 1 or 2 out of like 30, right? So, and when we ran tests for that compared to desktop, and we have an extremely healthy conversion rate, which even for desktop, we can be immediately profitable with things, which is great. But when we ran stuff with mobile and specifically looked at kind of our cost there, it was like 7 times as profitable. It was just like, it was drug money. It was crazy, right?
No competition, right?
Because there was this market looking for it, but the market is so behind, right? Because traditionally these particularly these retailers who sell candles and things like that. Again, a little more old school maybe. So in many ways, you can kind of look at, maybe not the biggest, fanciest markets, but maybe these mid markets. I mean, we're talking, so it's like a $6 billion a year market, so pretty sizable. But just being 5 steps ahead, having mobile, right, actually is a huge competitive advantage. That if you wanted to, you could sit and live on that all day long if you wanted to. It's pretty significant.
And that's good advice for entrepreneurs. Like, we're always drawn to the bleeding edge markets and the new technology. But if you can back up and do something that's not as exciting in the mid-level market, it may be wide open for someone that has this way of thinking about, everything to come in and kind of dominate or at least gain a good amount of share.
Yeah, it's taking, and I've, there's several people who are kind of doing this because, I'm in the middle of this, but, it's that, it's the TechCrunch fodder of like the new cool marketing stuff, the new cool tech.
Yeah.
Like, take that and then bring it to the more old school market, right?
Yeah.
So have your foot there, bring it here, and you're just gonna like blow things up because all these guys, it's just not there, So.
And how many years is it going to be before Yankee Candle has a Justin on staff? 10 years maybe, 15? Really.
Humbling. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that kind of person where it's like, that they think like this and they, have this as their MO. We're decades away from them having a growth hacker on staff. So.
Yeah. And even just the traditional, they're a big company problem, right? Which is they're not going to be taking huge risks unless they're popping out some new brands or something. But the likelihood of a company of that size doing that anytime soon is obviously pretty low in any market.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you've mentioned you didn't take any VC money. I want to ask you, do you think that's made you really disciplined and helped your business? Or has it hurt you because you couldn't just throw money at problems and run fast?
No, I see what you're saying. There's probably pros and cons to each, certainly. I think it has made us obviously more frugal, kind of de facto, you're not even by choice, but I think it has made us more scrappy with things. Because if we had a few $1 million like monthly paid acquisition spend, it'd be really easy to sit here and just play the paid acquisition game all day long, right? If that wasn't a focus, and particularly if you don't have necessarily pressure from investors to bring to the next level, and we're shooting for IPOs, keep running, but because really all our profits have been poured back into scaling manufacturing and inventory. Sitting here and saying, hey, what can we do for free to double revenue in the next 2 months? And saying, hey, okay, how are we using the blog now? Okay, we're not really happy with it. Let's look at some best practices in other industries. Let's craft something that's going to resonate and work with our industry. Let's set up the tracking like crazy, right? And then let's start testing this. It kind of forces you to do that. And right now, for some additional context, we 15, 20 people in manufacturing. We have really only, other than my 2 partners and co-founders, David and Brenda, we really have one other person in-house at all, who's Josh Beatty, who handles a lot of project management and social media, everything like that. So, for us, it's very much, all right, hey, Josh, hey, David, hey, Brenda, let's get in the room. How can we use a blog to or how can we take Pinterest from 10,000 followers to 100,000 in the next 3 months?
Yeah.
Let's find all the top pinners, right? And let's contact them. Let's set up, that type of thing. That's your only choice.
Yeah. No, that's great. It makes you scrappy for sure. Now you're also a growth consultant on Clarity, and you've advised over 50 startups, either on Clarity or just offline, talking to them. And you mentioned in your profile on Clarity that one of the things that people can ask you about is viral loops. So I'm going to ask you about viral loops. So tell us, what makes a good viral loop?
Right. And again, at the end of the day, I think for us, again, it starts kind of ground zero, with product, right? So for us, viral loops and tracking and kind of building on it has been very easy and will continue to be easy because we're starting, from a viral loop of, one, over one, like day one, right?
Gotcha.
Because people are just telling people, and if you think about it, even on the ring component, and actually, here's one of one of the little sample ring. This is like a $10 ring equivalent. It's kind of hard to see. But when people get this ring, what do women do with rings? They wear them, right? So when they're out with all their girlfriends, right, and they got the purple top on, it's matching the purple ring. You're like, girl, that's a nice ring, right? Where did you get it? Like, I got it in a candle. What? Like, and then it's like, let me tell you you gotta get down candles, right? So, on just relatively anecdotal surveys and things that we've done, the average person tells 3 to 4 people offline that end up turning into a purchasing decision.
Wow.
So that's that's beyond any of the tech. So with that and viral loop and creating viral loops. Right now in many ways we don't have that many viral loops. We have this hugely we have a huge viral loop with our product, right? And that's been huge and allowed us to continue to grow. We have a viral loop with our post-purchase refer a friend program, right? Because we know that on average people are referring this number of people, this amount of people are going to click, so and so forth, conversion rate, that type of thing. But other than that, and we're working on a lot more for the future because there's a lot of potential with what we're doing to kind of use photos better and rounding out our product line for the full kind of home fragrance kind of catalog and things like that. But we don't have a lot of separate individual loops. Yep. But I think it's something where, day one, it starts with the value creation, and it's just something that's going to be valuable. And the mechanics of how people are sharing and things like that, in many ways, can kind of fall into place. How can we deliver the most value to people, in this kind of one instance in kind of product life cycle? And certainly testing very quickly and figuring out what that biggest thing is, and then just continually optimizing around it.
No, that's great, and I love what you said about viral loops because so many people watching this, just because of where their product is at and what their product is, they're forced to go with option B, which is, hey, let's do a referral program as kind of the only game in town. Like, we hope that works. We hope they'll share it on Twitter or Facebook, and we'll give them something. But in reality, that's what you do if you can't do option A, which is create a product that is viral, and then optimize other things, and that'll help. But that's not going to be the main source of like what's going on there. And so for people watching this, if they're still trying to decide what product to do, pick something that's inherently viral. If you've already picked, then you're stuck with option B. Good luck with it. It's not bad. It's just it's not as good, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, obviously lots of examples. I mean, but there's going to be things where you can have this double-sided marketplace kind of conundrum in some examples where the increasing value of the product increases as the relative social, number of people participating with you increases, right? So, like, Evernote, right? Which I use a lot and love for things. Evernote does not bring me more value if 100 of my friends are using it, right? It's not any better or any worse. But Pinterest, Facebook, so on and so forth, right? Obviously, it's great if I have a lot of friends on Pinterest because there's more utility there. But and again, in many ways, Pinterest on its own is still very valuable, right? And that's what helped kind of get them going, before they kind of reach that. So it's if you're kind of determining kind of where you are, in terms of your product line, digital e-commerce, physical, whatever, and figuring things out. And I guess you could probably make the analogy, Diamond Candles is we've Pinterestified like candle products, right? Because candles before, you didn't really have a huge incentive to tell other people about it, but now you do, just kind of in the product, and there's more utility as that happens because you're having fun with your friends. Like women like to go shopping together. It's not fun shopping alone. For me it is, right? But not like most females, right? But my wife, Amanda, she's off with 10 girls or whatever, So, but yeah,
that's great. So you guys have done a lot with social, obviously. We talked about the 250,000 Facebook likes. I think your YouTube videos have had over 1 million views, an aggregate of all the people watching these things, which of course is driving traffic. And you've consulted with a lot of companies, and you've seen, their social strategies. Give us some examples, if you have any, of companies that are kind of building in social into the product in clever ways, maybe just to inspire people watching this.
Right.
If you have any examples, I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. There's some, let me see. There's some great, because again, kind of two buckets. There's people who they're maybe working on in mediums that are inherently social, or the product is more social.
Okay.
Lolly Wally Doodle, I believe, is a children's clothing retailer, which is predominantly online, and they've done some really, really cool things with Facebook. I think they have near a 500,000 fans.
Wow.
But they had it set up to where basically, you comment on their posting, and then you would automatically be emailed like an invoice, right? So if people wanted to buy it, comment here. So, when you're in your feed and you're seeing the 3 or 4 posts a day of the new outfit, and there's, you can see all the people who are buying it, right? It's all kind of in Facebook, right?
Okay.
But, that's not making dresses maybe more inherently viral for like a cute little girl's like sundress or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think Warby Parker is a great example, with the glasses, you're wanting to share this to other people, and, get feedback for, how it looks and everything. There's a guy I'm talking with. He's pretty early on in a furniture company, actually, and he's trying to do something different in furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he's looking at doing is having a very, very strong kind of social referral kind of component to it,
Mm-hmm.
where basically pricing wise and everything, you would be stupid not to. If something maybe typically that couch costs $2,000, where someone would typically buy it, they're getting it. They're iterating on operations in supply chain. They're getting it on the boat straight from China type thing, so they're getting it significantly less. So retailer sells at $2,000. They could they're going to sell it at $1,000, right? But they're going to really sell it for $500, right? Because hey, if you get one other person in the store, we're going to give you $500 or something like that.
Gotcha.
Where it's just they could have just done $500, but they jacked it up, but it's still a difference to where it still makes a difference on that sticker price.
Yeah.
But where they're going to see an inordinately high level of participation just because they weighted things.
Yeah.
Beyond that, nothing else I can think of offhand. But
Those are great examples. And I like those examples because they're industries that most people on the show are not talking about. We don't hear about furniture companies and things like that. So I'm glad you have examples like that. And I love what you just said about margins. If you have that much margin to work with, you can get really creative with incentives that you can't do otherwise. So that's awesome.
Actually, a quick thought. One of the interesting things, and I just do it for fun sometimes, if you go to the Internet Retailer top 1,000 listing,
Mm-hmm.
you can see all the top 1,000, by revenue volume retailers out there. And when you get to the second 500 list, you can see some pretty random stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like RC Toys or something like that, But, find some of these industries, right? And then, learn about the supply chain, right? If you're finding, hey, all of these guys, they're outsourcing to the same factory in China to make the handbags or whatever, and maybe there's one company who owns 80% of the market or whatever it might be. It's hey, call up the factory in China, figure out how much the cost is. They can make this stuff for you. You just need the different designs, right? And be like, holy crap, they're selling this stuff for $200 and it's costing them $20.
Yeah.
Wow, hey, I could come in, maybe there's an incentive on the pricing to where it's a little bit better.
Yep.
But with all that margin, there's some creative things you can do to incent people to do things. So it's kind of a fun practice. Go through that list, see some of the random companies, doing $10, $20 million a year selling random crap, and then be like, how could I do this different? And it's just kind of a fun exercise.
Yeah, and people, might think that, well, then the competitor could drop their price, but they can't. That's the problem. I mean, that's the innovator's dilemma we talked about really briefly earlier, which is they already have a whole set of cost now with their employees, with their own marketing, with whatever, that they can't just now drop the price. But where you're, the newcomer entering the market, you don't have all this stuff going on already, so you can do whatever you want with your margins. And so that's why it's hard to compete, and that's why there's a place in the world for startups, period.
Yeah, and that's where when you see, most of these companies figure if they've been around for any length of time and they have, pretty easy to any of these companies, call them up, do some digging through how many employees they have, to figure out some inefficiencies in their cost structure or in their headcount or things like that. With, we started on Shopify as our e-commerce platform, and I think they just updated their pricing. You can have an account after a 30-day free trial for $14 a month, nothing, right? Throw it up on Shopify, and we literally we used a straight Shopify theme up until 2 months ago. So it's literally the stock theme. The logo was logo contest, label contest, right? And we kept the designers who we have from that to do stuff for us ongoing. but we're able to do that. Admin cost was just so low, and through just some basic plugins and things through Shopify, utilizing third-party fulfillment centers, like Amazon and things like that in the past, to automate so much of these business practices, where your competitors, they have like 20 people, and you can get it done with like one or two, and it's just you have better automated systems. You're not using a fax machine. Just some really basic stuff that you'd be like, those exist anymore, right? But they do. If you could come in and cut a lot of that out, and make things more efficient, there's just there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, I think people would be shocked if they knew the true inefficiencies in the markets that they're considering competing in.
Yeah, and that's and that's one of those things. The more you learn about the efficiencies, the more excited you'll get, right? That's one of the things for me when I see other industries, or I'm talking to a guy who's working somewhere, and I know a little bit about the industry. I'm like, oh, you're going to kill it, right? I know the tools you're going to use, because these guys are so slow and messy or whatever, right? Or it takes them like a month to decide to do anything, right? And you can decide to do something in a second. It should just get you pumped, right? And that's where getting in, and even if you work at a company in one of these industries, to really get in there and learn what's going on, work there for 6 months, at some low-level paid position or something part-time, I don't know. Like, get a feel for it, and then it gives you kind of that working knowledge.
Yeah, that's great. Now, we talked about virality quite a bit, and we talked a lot about the social side of things. Do you ever use email as a part of your virality? You send out emails and they're sending stuff to their friends or anything like that?
Right. So part of the post-purchase refer a friend going to be our platform with Curebit. Email is a part of that. Okay. So we do see participation with email, with sending out some of those correspondence. It's not a huge driver for us right now. Okay. But we do see a lot of potential that, particularly in the back end kind of life cycle marketing piece of it. And we're reworking a lot of that now, just because, and just to give an idea of in many ways, we're step by step. We're not like everything day one, because we drop $5 million on it. But typically, since we started, we come out with a new product, every so often, every 2 or 3 months for a while. And the only time we would email our list would be, hey, we got a new product, check it out, buy it. That was it, right? Where you now look and you check your inbox and you're getting like a daily email from Bonobos, right? You still open them because the pictures are cool. You're like, oh man, that stuff's cool, right? Or whatever, like Fab, right? You're like, oh man, like I could be doing this a lot better, big time low hanging fruit, Yeah. So a lot of potential there on the lifecycle marketing end of it, as well as, we're building out a lot more kind of viral loops around parts of the product experience, not just kind of the post-purchase element of it, that will look to utilize email to a higher degree, or at the end of the day, whatever channel kind of works better. So if, referrals via Facebook are worth 3 times as much, well, we're going to really, focus on a big Facebook button, a bit of email button, or vice versa, whatever it might be.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been awesome. Let me ask you one last question, kind of high level. You can take it any direction you want. What's the best advice that you have for anyone that's trying to grow a startup?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
The $1 million question.
Yeah, I know. That's a big one. The best advice, I would say, always be a student, right? So, always be looking at other industries, learning about how things work. That's something, just because I enjoy it in many ways, if I was a garbage man, I'd probably be doing this for fun. Like, I think it's fun, right? It's almost like a big video game, right? Learning about other industries, how things work, always constantly feeding yourself new information. I have a personal information diet and systems around that, with aggregating RSS feeds and things like that. And I consume a relatively large amount of information every week. I listen to podcasts on 3x the speed. Right, so an hour-long podcast, you need to do 20 minutes.
You're the other person that does that.
Yeah, the other person, right? So fun stuff like that, right? So always being a student, always learning, because there's always something. Next week I'm going to see some article or some strategy and be like, oh, that fits perfectly. Yeah. And so being there and always learning, part of that, and increasingly I've learned this. I wasn't so much sold on this day one, but having having friends with people, right? Being friends with people who are doing similar things. When you find something cool and it's going to be valuable for them, send it to them. Have that close network of people you can talk shop with regularly. Look for other industries that you can iterate on, right? If that's the direction you're going with things. So, always be learning, always be testing, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Justin, this has been such a good interview. Thank you again for taking time out of your schedule and for coming on.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Glad I could be here.